Okay. All right. Well, welcome everyone. Just take a moment before we begin our Earth Exchange Cafe to just start to find ourselves arriving in this space where we're all sharing together. Maybe shake off any road dust. If you need to, an invitation to just close your eyes for a few minutes if you'd like. And I just invite you to imagine that we're all sitting together in a cafe.
Mhm.
Perhaps you actually have a cup of coffee or a mug of tea in front of you, or you can just imagine something that your beverage, your favorite beverage. And here we are all together across space and time, as some of us who are gathering right now will be watching in the future. So before we begin, I would like to honor and acknowledge our respective places where we're all seated right now. And this place where I am seated in Hawaii is a place that was illegally seized by the US government from the Native Hawaiians or Kanaka Maoli. So let us pause to honor and acknowledge the land and all its inhabitants, as well as the historic relationships that Indigenous or Aboriginal people have with our respective places. Perhaps you don't know a lot about the place where you are in this moment, so it's just an invitation to explore a little more later. Find that learning about the places, the history, the human and non-human ancestors, that we can deepen our connection with the place, which is part of what we as an organization are working to do. So thank you for joining us today. And if your eyes are closed, I just invite you to go ahead and open them. And I just want to introduce really briefly our organization, Radical Joy for Hard Times. And our mission is to deeply connect with natural places that have damaged by either human or even natural acts. And we acknowledge that by spending time in wounded places, we expose our hearts to sometimes very difficult feelings of loss or guilt, grief. But we also find that by listening to the land and one another, we open ourselves to possibilities of finding and creating beauty and just seeing the beauty around us. And in this practice of finding beauty in wounded places, we can find ourselves transformed, which ultimately can deepen our connections to the place and our community, either the human or even the non-human community around us. So that said, I do have one announcement to make before we begin. And on June 20th this year, we're going to be holding our annual Global Earth Exchange, where we join together across the globe. So all over the globe, people will come together at a damaged or wounded place and share what you love about those places, doing a little beautiful practice called the Global Earth Exchange, and then creating an offering in that place wherever you happen to be. And I will go ahead and put a link in the chat, or have Andrea, I guess I can put the link in the chat, to give you a little bit more of the background of the Global Earth Exchange. And then I'm going to go ahead and hand the mic over to our Radical Joy board member, Amy Tuttle. So you can go ahead and introduce herself and begin our cafe this morning, or this afternoon, or this evening, or wherever you are in time and space.
Wow, Liz, thank you so much. Thank you for starting us off in such a beautiful way in this connection with place, with land. Anne Stein and I were in a council yesterday, and something that Anne said that stood out to me is that humans have evolved in relationship with all living beings. And this deep interconnection is just, it's part of our aliveness. It's part of our aliveness. There's human reality, and there's so much more than human reality. And it's a dynamic conversation that we're in and that we're a part of. I'll share just a little bit about myself, and then I'll also share a little bit about where we'll go and how we'll move together today with our time and with our attention and with our care and our love. Thank you so much for choosing to come here and spend time with us. So I'm Amy Tuttle. I also go by Thunder. My last name means Thor kettle or thunder cauldron. And so I descend from people who are connected to thunder and to a thunder of Scandinavian origin. So the indigeneity of Thor. And so some people in here might call me Thunder sometimes, and that's where that comes from. And I am, yeah, with honor, humility, and respect, a person who serves the world in a couple of different ways. One is as a wilderness rites of passage guide. The other is as an arts and healing practitioner. And maybe one more is just as like a lover of beauty and a believer in the transformative capacity of care and of attention, and how essential care and attention are in times like these. Yeah. So we're actually we're gonna practice one of my favorite of all time art forms to get us started. And here's a bit of the shape of this time as I know it now. I'm a big believer in emergent practices, so something might come up that needs care, attention, or play. And if that happens, we'll roll with it. We'll start with counsel and just a chance to hear each other's voices and hearts. So I'll seed that here in a moment. Counsel.
Amy, can I just say one thing before you go in?
Sure.
Just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure everyone is aware that we are recording this and
Mm.
it will be aired, publicly. So just wanted to kind of add that just in case if you don't want to speak or if you want to, hold a little closer what you want to speak, then just want to make sure you're aware. Thank you.
Beautiful. Totally. Thank you. So we'll have a chance to connect with each other through hearing each other's voices and counsel. And then I want to share about a specific effort that bridges the vision of radical joy for hard times and the support of Indigenous communities and efforts of land back, land preservation, and cultural support. And then we'll talk a little bit more. We'll have a little more conversation. So kind of like conversation, a little bit of learning, conversation. All right. Good enough for now? Safe enough to try? Cool. Okay. So for our first round of counsel, a few things that are really essential are just like speak from the heart, get to the heart of the matter, or be brief in what you're saying. You could be spontaneous too, like let yourself be surprised. And if you're not speaking, we'll speak one at a time, then you're simply witnessing or listening. And we don't do a back and forth. We don't, there's no need to fix each other or offer any sort of advice. We really just take it in and listen to it. And we'll keep it simple for today, keeping in mind what Liz said, which is that there's a lot of people who wanted to be here who are not able to, who have asked to be engaged by engaging with a recording. And what we know is that those folks are collaborators and friends inside of this community. And that means that it's a little bit inherently different than some spaces where we don't record for confidentiality. So we can keep that in mind as well too as we're sharing. And so for our first round, just tell us your name, and then tell us about your place. Just speak from the heart about your place. Bring us in. What's it like there? Tell us about your place. So popcorn style, whenever you're ready, what is your name? Tell us about your place.
Well, I love this thunder, so I'm going to leap in. I'm Anne, and I'm in Southern Oregon, um, near the California border in a little town of Ashland in the Rogue Valley. And what comes to mind when you say to tell you about the place I'm in, I'm surrounded by mountains. To the east is the Cascades, and to the west and the south are the Siskiyous. And we have a just a treasure of a place called the Cascade Siskiyou National Monument, which has in it the greatest concentration of diverse conifers, either in this country or in the world. I don't know. I don't want to exaggerate. I've heard both. And so we have a monument that is in our backyard. And I just love knowing that it's there. And of course, it's under threat right now, but we have we are quite a force here in the valley to love and care for our land. So, and there's lots more to say, but that's what I feel. I'm held in this valley surrounded by mountains and lakes and rivers and lots of conifers. Yeah. So that's me. Stick down. Yeah.
Well, my name is Marilyn, and I live in Northern Oregon at the foothills of the beautiful Mount Hood. And Oregon's just a beautiful state, mountains and ocean and beauty everywhere in the people and the landscape.
I can go next. I'm in a town called Waimanalo, Hawaii, and on the island of Oahu, and it's really interesting because it is now where Radical Joy is based out of, and right down the road is a place where I've done several of my global Earth exchanges. It's a really beautiful area, very treasured place on the island where I live. But there's a military base that is, training for military for war, and yet there's also a beautiful place in the area where families go to restore and just relax, military families and also the local community. And it's also a place where it was at one time thought to be one of the earliest places where the original Native Hawaiian people who first came to the islands settled here. I think that has since changed, but it is definitely one of the oldest known settlements of the Native Hawaiian people, or the first peoples who came to the islands here. So a very special place.
So I live in northern Arapaho, Cheyenne, and eastern Shoshone territory in southern Wyoming. And I live at 7,000 feet, a town about 150 people. This is a very remote place of an already remote state. And the surrounding area is dotted with other towns about maybe the same size. And an hour in either direction, there's a county seat of like 10,000 people, and then the town where I prefer to do my shopping, an hour in the other direction, about 20,000 people. And it's the mountains are about 10 miles to the south of me. And the river that my town is built next to has its source there. And it's a mountainous area with wide open spaces in between. It's cold, dry, and windy. It's got the sagebrush and the pronghorn, and guys who wear cowboy hats without the irony.
My name is Melinda, and the place that surrounds me in which I live has been stewarded by the Nisqually Coast Salish folk, and I am privileged to be surrounded by tall fir trees and forests, rivers that are used to be much more full with salmon, and the beautiful view of Mount Rainier in the state of Washington. And yeah, I am privileged to breathe clean air for the most part, and to walk amidst populations of trees and verdant plants, and very grateful for that. So thank you.
I'm Remy. I'm in central Germany, and it's way past my bedtime. So I'm already in bed with my cat. She's wondering why the laptop is on my lap and not her. Yeah. So, but I was curious, and I have been doing Earth Exchange, Global Earth Exchange for 3 years now, and it's a very important part of my my life. Uh, I live in a very agricultural area. Unfortunately, very close to my home is a conventional farmer, and we do a lot of prayer on the land there. Before agriculture took over here, a couple thousand years ago, this was dense oak. This was just oak. It was just oak. This whole land was only tree and wildlife. And I have seen that in visions when I meditate with the land. And we contribute here. We do our best to plant trees and to nourish all living things, all life. And I'm a gardener, um, and I love it. And I love it, and I love the land. Yeah, and yeah, that's it. That's enough. Yeah. Here I am.
Andrea, I know your voice is challenged today, so just invitation if it's supportive, you're welcome to use the chat if you would like to be heard. Yeah, we're here with you in that experience.
I just wanted to quickly mention to Liz that I grew up on the Wyoming-South Dakota border, so I'm probably familiar with the area where you live.
Okay, so I'm Amy, and I'm calling in from northern Montana near Glacier National Park. It's the land that is home to the Kootenai, to the Salish people, and the Blackfeet are pretty close by as well. Really active, very intact culture and practice and community. It's beautiful to be in a place where there's so much integrity and intact practice. I'm looking right now at the mountains that are the Rocky Mountains, and they are so beautiful, and they are still covered in snow. And people here do also unironically wear cowboy hats all the time. Uh, it's the home for aspen. It's my first time really living around, like really living around aspen trees. And there's so many here. And right now they have these like they're seeding, and they've got these like funny, fuzzy little like tails coming out of all the branches that are really cool that I've never seen before. I'm from Ohio originally, so Montana is like blowing my mind. And here I noticed there's this like starling um, in my neighborhood, and every time we walk by it, I notice that it's mocking the calls of other birds, but because we're in Montana, it's mocking hawk and it's mocking eagle. And so like it's wild to like that to me is a mirror for how wild this place is to have this like little teeny little bird sounding pretty close to an eagle. And I love that and have such appreciation. Thank you all for starting us off this way and just bringing us into these images of the lands that you're around. There's so much love and beauty and poetry and care. I really hear the care too, and it kind of for me it starts to drum up like the protector instinct in myself. It's like we love these lands. We need these lands. We are our land. Look at that. So let that be strong with us. Let's just go one more time hearing voices and hearing our voices. And just to answer this, if it feels alive for you, which is just to tell us about your yes. Why was it important for you to show up here today that you know of so far? You know, like what comes up with your instinct to spend a Saturday morning, afternoon, evening, night with us?
I love the Earth Exchange cafes, and my daughter is Liz. And two of my grandsons have Native heritage, Cherokee and Quapaw. And my dear friend is Native Hawaiian. So I've always been interested in culture, in Indigenous peoples.
So did you say that you're Liz's mom?
I am.
Oh, wonderful. That's
Lucky
great.
me.
The Liz in
Yeah.
Hawaii, not the Liz in Wyoming.
Right.
The Liz in Hawaii. Okay.
But I could
Well,
be Wyoming's mom.
I'm here. Oh, sorry. So,
Oh,
yeah, go
ahead.
ahead. You done?
I wouldn't mind being Liz in Wyoming's mom too.
So I guess I'm here. Well, I've known about and been involved with Radical Joy since it began. Trevi's one of my oldest and closest friends, and when she got the manifesto for Radical Joy, which I still have a copy of, I was just so inspired. It was a wave that she was riding way ahead of her time, and now it's matured, and so I've been engaged with it for a while. And then Amyʻs Thunder is very dear to my heart, and we are creating a lovely, deep connection intergenerationally as we guide and protect and carry forward the ancient rite of passage ceremony. And so I have great respect and love for Thunder, and I'm curious about what she has to offer today because I learn a lot from her. And there are many parts of her life that I only know the titles of, but I don't know what she knows. And one of the things I'm noticing as I age, I'm in my 80s now, is that when I was younger, I was you know, busy learning and kind of offering what I knew or I thought I knew, and now I'm back in a learning phase. I feel like the thing that really keeps me going is my interest in learning. So I think I'm also here to learn. Um, yeah, so lovely to be here with everybody. That's it.
I don't know how I ended up signed up for the Radical Joy for Hard Times newsletter, but somehow I did, or I made one connection, another, and another before you know it. And I got involved with the other activities, the hospice rights when they were going, done 2 global Earth exchanges, and these were on Facebook. And it's a long story, but I was not doing Facebook, so I'm glad the format has changed to participate. And I think this is like the second one of these, so I'm really sort of learning what this practice is all about. But if I had to sort of sum up and say generally, I'm a pagan druid, and my impetus for getting involved, like once I getting to know the organization, like this is something good, was to begin to create an offering, a practice to honor and give offerings to the Earth Mother. And I was like, everything else in my life is chaos. it's going to take a while to actually put together something really coherent, but at least I can plug into something that's already going and be easy. I just need to show up. So that's what it is, as an offering to the Earth Mother is why I'm here today.
I'm curious. I'm just curious. uh, I walked the red road of Lakota tradition. I had a teacher, very good teacher, who died some time ago. Yeah, and the path is just that I've been on it for 32 years now, and it just goes deeper, wider, deep time, future, whatever. Yeah, and just being here, it seems to like, oh yeah, okay, I do that. Okay, yeah, okay. I mean, I get the newsletter, I look at stuff and I think, yep, I can do that. I'll be there and see what happens. This curiosity and this eternal learning, always. Forever and ever. Amen. All women.
I will just say, Andrea or Mylinda, if you would like to go, I can pause and let one of you go. Otherwise, I can share. I'll just take a moment.
You can go ahead.
Okay. I mean, I'm here because I'm part of the organization, but I'm also just really excited to hear about Amy's. Amy's an amazing person, and I've been really curious about the work that she's been doing, and haven't really had a lot of time to connect with her on that. So very excited to learn more.
And I would just say I'm curious as well. I get the newsletter. Never been on one of the cafes, but doing some investigation as an expressive arts therapist, working in creating an aesthetic response to collective loss. And so this is pretty integrative into what I'm looking at and curious about. So yeah, I'm just hoping to witness and to learn. So I appreciate that. And now I'm looking forward to what Amy has to share and guide us in. So thank you.
Wow. Way to show up. Welcome. It's it's pretty incredible how we can show up like this. And really impactful, I think, also to just hear and feel into each other's whys. So we've like come together in a community today, this ephemeral community. It's just existing right here, right now. And we've come together with our places. We centered our places. We like generously shared with each other about our places. And then carried that into like, why does this conversation matter? And that's where we'll spend the next little bit of time is like, what's the connection between place and this why? Why does place matter? Who protects place? How do we support the protection of place? And at Rad Joy, a lot of times at Rad Joy, what we're doing, it's kind of like the psychological first aid version of land care. Something devastating has happened and we show up. And it's a gorgeous response. And this is also true about the work that I will talk about today, is occasionally, every once in a while, in a few small places in the world, there are intact, sometimes we call them virgin forests, these like pristine places that still exist. And they are becoming every day more and more and more deeply endangered. And so sometimes our work in the work of restoration, the work of carrying joy into impossibility, is similar to starting again, is similar to protecting what already exists, is similar to the courage of being a gardener, which is so beautiful. What's not to love? And so let's go on a journey around land and protection and around indigeneity and around how to support intact indigenous cultures and land, which is really a question. I don't think I'm going to be giving a whole lot of answers today, just as a heads up. And we'll just keep learning together. All right, I'm gonna share my screen. I made a PowerPoint. This is like a rare thing in my world. All right, can everyone see that okay? Great, okay. So this conversation is really on preservation and trust. And now that I'm feeling into it more, I think what I would add to that is restoration or reclamation and also celebration. So there's like a lot that's been lost. Melinda, I really love hearing about your work. How do we process loss? How do we process grief? And how do we celebrate what exists? And what do we have to learn from and with Indigenous cultures? So I have the really rare honor and humble honor of working really closely with a few different Indigenous communities. And a request about 4 years ago, a request emerged that myself and a couple of other people who work closely in communities start an effort to support in the form of a nonprofit organization to raise funds, to educate, to raise awareness, and to build community. And something that I have found through that journey to be absolutely mind-blowing and incredible, and sometimes even inconceivable to me, is that with Indigenous culture and community, often there is an uninterrupted transfer of wisdom from generation to generation to generation. And so, what I might learn from my parents, who learned it from their grandparents, who learned it from their great-grandparents, will be directly passed along to me. And in European cultures and in the entire process of colonialization and westernization, which we know is really complicated, a lot of that transfer of earth wisdom was lost. So we're in these really deep processes of remembering, of calling it back, of learning. And I want to really offer that there are beautiful, respectful ways to learn that have permission and trust at the center, and that's distinctly different from appropriation, which is always part of this conversation too, because it needs to be, because it has to be. And so this is a conversation on trust, so a conversation on learning. So the organization that myself and some others started is called the Indigenous Support Alliance. And some really cool trickster thing that happened is that the nonprofit got incorporated on July 4th, is our official organization date, which is not the date that I submitted the paperwork. And I think it's really interesting that our official nonprofit incorporation date is Independence Day in the United States, because we're working for true liberation and independence. And so the poetry of that is not lost on me. So here's a little bit about who we are. And I'm going to say that we work in alignment with, there's many beautiful organizations who are doing similar and aligned work and would probably say something quite similar to this. And this is like our mission statement, that we are dedicated to preserving culture, protecting the environment, and supporting Indigenous communities through direct action and partnership. And honestly, partnership means like relationship, community. What's it like to become family, really, with each other? All of the pictures in this slideshow also, by the way, are, here, let me go back, are from one of our partner communities and tribes in Colombia. And so these are taken on the ground with permission. Yeah, so we do a lot of resource sharing. We love to raise awareness around programming. And then ultimately, and I think this is really heart of the matter of the work, is advocating and protecting the Indigenous lands. So land is everything, right? Like that's kind of where we started this conversation, is describing our lands. From land, something really beautiful that I've learned over time is that from land is birthed language, and that so much language comes from land, and that even the work, the beautiful and hard work of preserving native languages is intricately connected to the preservation of the land. When the land is taken quickly, the language tends to also go quickly. When the language is preserved or remembered, alongside the land being preserved and remembered, protected, then it keeps the whole spirit of the thing in connection to itself. So land and language are also really similar, which is why I think, like, without even trying to be poets earlier, when each of us described our places, it was deeply poetic. It was like real beautiful with our words and language, and that's how we work. That's a human thing. So here are some images from a place on Earth that I love, possibly the most. Yeah, I think it's possible that it's the place I love the most. And I'm just gonna tell a general story around this. So through deep relationships, myself and 3 other people were invited to start to support the effort of reclaiming ancestral lands in the Putumayo, which is the jungles, Amazon jungles of Colombia. And in support through in-person on the ground programming and fundraising, in collaboration and partnership with a lot of Colombian efforts, we have been able to buy back a lot of ancestral land that is then transferred or translated, put into a conservation easement, which means that it's rematriated, it belongs to itself. It's given back to itself. It's not human owned, and it's protected through a lot of guardianship. And this is what it looks like there. It's gorgeous. It's very important that it is protected like this, because it is also surrounded by the efforts of a lot of different forms of mining, oil mining, gold mining, as well as the mining of precious, like the Amazon is the pharmacy of the world. And so there's a lot of precious herbs, plants that come from this region that are used to create pharmaceuticals that the rest of the world depends on. And something that I would like to share that's a loss, it's a grief story for me, is the change, the sonic change, the change in the sound of place from the first time that I was invited to come to visit till now, which is many, many times later, is startling. It just sounded like the jungle the first time. It was loud, life. And it's still loud with life, but it's also entirely surrounded by the sounds of big engines, the smell of petroleum fires. Occasionally, you can feel the shock from drilling too. And so it's like, thank goodness we have been able to work together to preserve what we've preserved. And we want to continue, we have a real big vision to continue expanding that preservation with this tribe, with this community, and with a couple of others that I'll talk about in a little bit. Because protecting that land, it's the same thing as protecting like the heart of the world. And a lot of this particular land does have that quality of being previously unmined, like never deforested. And so the pressures and forces that are coming in now are immense. They're immense. There's a lot of grief there. There's also a lot of joy and resistance, which is, part of, I didn't mean to raise my hand, which is part of, how do I lower my hand? Huh. Lower my hand. Okay. Which is part of how we're in this conversation today, is like, in difficult times, joy is radical. Like the resistance of life. This is just like one of my absolute all-time favorite photos that represents like two of the most important actual relationships inside of this particular collaboration or partnership between a tribal leader and between an American who works tirelessly for these efforts as well. Okay. So like what's endangering ancestral indigenous lands? I want to say that this is a global conversation. It's a global conversation. It's relevant for North America, Central America, South America, Europe, Asia, Australia, Africa. I mean, it's like, this is global. It's done been happening. What's relevant right now? And here are some things that are true across the board. And we know that this is true in the United States. We heard this in, I heard it really specifically in Anne's check-in. And I also heard Anne say really clearly that the people of the valley are strong. And so, yes, yes. Deforestation. This like somehow in our world continues to be like such a point of, I guess I'll just call it greed, but also a resource that we have become dependent on. So we end up getting habitat loss. And if anyone was able to join our last Global Earth Exchange with Jana, it was like very incredible to hear about her work. She creates murals of endangered species, often who are endangered due to climate change, forest fires, or deforestation. And after she creates them, she washes them away in this like beautiful ritualistic process that represents grief and loss. And so there's all sorts of things happening, including illegal mining, which is a space where my protector in anger really comes out. It happens everywhere, all the time. People sneak onto other people's lands or to lands themselves that are national parks even, and take resources. So what's land back? I'm actually going to just pause for a moment. Obviously, there's like a definition here, but I would love to hear some voices of when you hear land back, what comes to mind? What does that evoke for you?
That's an easy one. That's really an easy one. It's with the people that I work with in Indian Collective are very powerfully involved in the land back movement, and it's not only it's not really, it is literally restoring the land, so ancestral lands as well, but as well as the respect and the biodiversity and language and all that comes with the land. It means restoring culture, actually. As for me, it's restoring culture and making this culture accessible to those of us, particularly of European descent, who really need it. who really need to learn this culture, really need to reconnect to land, to become land. So it's also land back for those of us who have practiced colonization and extraction and all of these things. So that's land back for me.
Yeah. Thank you for that. That's an education, Rami. Yeah. I didn't know about land back until probably several years ago. And what it means to me is breaking the assumption that we have a right to the land that we're living on. It just never occurred to me that I'm living on land that was stolen from people who belong to the land. I mean, it's like a wake up call. Like, oh, I had no idea. So that's one thing it means, is waking up to the truth of what the land is and who, not who owns it. It's not about ownership. It's about stewarding and caring and being in relationship. And then the first example, and I'm sure Thunder knows about this, was in the Owens Valley, a beautiful piece of land that still maintains its original ecosystem, which has been mostly destroyed by LA Water and Power. But money was raised by the owner, and then it was given over to the Paiute people who run the water, the use of the water in the Owens Valley. So this was like, wow, look what's possible. The people had not had right to their own land for over 100 years, and now they occupy this place, which is beautiful, and do their ceremonies and raise their children. So certainly it's something that wakes me up to the truth of land, which we don't own it. And I was raised to own things. That's what you did. Now I don't own anything except an old Prius and some clothes. Land back. Let's do more of that. Yeah. Okay.
It's a movement that I'm really intrigued by when I first heard about it. And again, I think a couple of years ago was when I did, just like Anne. Definitely supportive of, and every time it pops up, I try to, like here, I try, I want to learn more about what's going on. I have to say though that what I have heard so far, and I think maybe because if I'm right in thinking it's a nascent movement, that when it comes to the practical mechanics, when it comes to articulating and explaining that to a broader audience, I kind of feel like maybe there was a little bit more, there's some work to be done. And I'm very curious to know whether you have something to say about that, or how you would articulate and communicate, and if this is the work you're doing, what the conversations have been like and so forth. Because I definitely had questions with what I've heard about this to date, that would require a very lengthy conversation to go point by point of everything that came up for me. So I'm very intrigued.
Thank you, Liz, for those questions too. When I think about land back, I think of restorative justice, practical actions of responsibility, and response that is just and yeah, for those who have caused harm, to take responsibility and accountability, and like real rent, do Amish, actually paying rent on land that has been stolen, and so active, practical ways of giving back to those who have stewarded it for generations. So that's what I understand land back to be. And it could look different in each place according to what is needed and what is asked for.
Okay, beautiful. I think it sounds like we have a really whole perspective on land back, including deep questions, discomfort, awareness, I'm hearing about unlearning. Liz, I had to look up the word nascent because I wasn't sure what that meant. Now I'm with you and great. Um, I'll go through the rest of the presentation, and if you still have questions, we can totally meet. So there's always this kind of like how to talk about this stuff and scale it to like A, audience, and B, time. And so totally heard and really open to keep being in conversation together. And I think that this has already come up, so I'm going to move through this quickly, and I still have a little bit more to share, and then we'll come back around for some Q&A. So land back and cultural preservation are deeply interconnected, right? And we've already heard this through the shares. Language and land go together. Knowledge systems and land go together. Artifacts and land go together. Who protects them? Who's protecting them? And then also this piece, and this piece has become really important for our continued efforts, as well as I think in general, this whole conversation is deeply supported through cross-cultural collaboration, which really, really wants to be uplifted through cultural sensitivity, through curiosity. I heard the word curiosity come through quite a lot in our council at the beginning, and through working together to overcome barriers. And sometimes cultural differences don't want to be resolved, can't be resolved, just want to be encountered. And I'll send out this later if anyone is interested. This is the way to donate specifically to our efforts. 100% of everything that comes in as a donation goes back out to direct action. We're entirely volunteer led, and so we're not taking any salaries or stipends, which means that every single penny that comes in goes out, which is a beautiful effort for us. Here's some of the creatures that are in the Putumayo and also in Accra and like northern Brazil, in Mexico. These are some of the places that we work. Some of these, these guys aren't with us in the United States, but we have heard today about a lot of trees. I noticed people were sharing about trees in place. And so we might say that part of land back in the places that we live has a strong story or relationship to the oak tree, right? To the aspen. Like, let me just tell you about how incredible jaguars, sloths, and frogs are. And they are vibrant and vital. And they also require protection from people. And there's also the sounds. The sounds. I think sound is such a beautiful way to engage with place, to build our love for place, to build our interconnection and our protectorship, to describe place. Another beautiful conversation that I'd love to have with this group is like, what does your place sound like? What does it sound like? All right, so, specific to this project that I'm working with, are working with the Huni Queen in Brazil, in Ghana and Colombia, several North American efforts, as well as some efforts in Mexico. These involve land back, land protection, cultural preservation, and language-based preservation. And I'm going to skip through this quick because I think this is an unusually informed group, which is amazing. We know that like there are a lot of resources in our forests and lands. And so it becomes important then to protect what and who protects us, right? And this is the space for collaboration, listening, learning, showing up in a really good way. When an invitation is offered, either from a place or a people, how is it that we can show up and respond with care, with relationship in mind, with heart, with service? And yeah. So what I'd like for us to do as we start to close our time, which kind of flew by, is to check out with each other by sharing like something short. Could be a word, could be a sentence. Like, what's something that you want to take away from this? Maybe something has been sparked, a curiosity. And maybe there's like a burning question. Maybe there's like a clear spark toward action. There's something that you would like to directly do or learn more about. And let's just use these last couple of minutes to share. What are you taking with you?
Thunder, I'd like to be kept more informed about your organization. And I can't give much financial support, but something. I'd like to be more connected to that. I take that with me. I learned a lot today. And I've just started taking a bird class at the university here. I took my first class yesterday, and I'm taking with me an intention to really be listening to the songs of the birds. They sing the song that belongs to this place, I learned. Each one has their own song. So I'm going to do that. I was going to, take a picture, whatever that thing is you do when you want to, I don't know what it is. Anyway, you can keep me informed. It's been wonderful to be with everybody. It's been so inspiring.
I'm taking gratitude for your work. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Beautiful what you do. And I transfer it here as well as I can. Take it into my community.
I had a couple of things. I just wanted to point out that Andrea posted in the chat a book that people might be interested in. Um, I don't know the name of the book. It just says the author, Hilary Giovanni, but it looks like maybe the Good Relative is the name of the book. So I know Andrea's got a laryngitis, so probably can't really speak to it, but maybe click on the link if you're interested. And then also for me, a lot of this was, just wanted to really thank you, Amy, for the work that you're doing because it is so critical and important. And the sound thing was really came alive for me too. I loved your question about like what does our soundscapes, what are our sounds like? And it also made me think about this that would be a beautiful theme for a global earth exchange if you went to a place that maybe a childhood place that you can go back to that has changed dramatically, or that there's sounds of cars and things now that there didn't used to be, that there's a lot of grief in that, for as you expressed, of it isn't something that I had ever thought about with sound. Light pollution is a big one for me, but the soundscape I had never really thought that much depth about before, so thank you for that.
Yeah, I'll echo that, an invitation to pay attention to the sounds of the land. Also, an invitation to take away what the protective spirit feels like within, and how that can show up in acts of care. So this sense of the both and of the anger and the grief over what we are losing, but also the motivation to protect. And so, thank you for those invitations to pay attention and to act on it.
Amy, looking at you and hearing you speak reminds me of a poem that I've always loved. And it goes like this: a little sun, little rain, a soft wind blowing from the west, and woods and fields are sweet again and warmth within the mountain's breast. A little love, a little trust, a soft impulse, a sudden dream, and life as dry as desert dust is fresher than a mountain stream. So thank you for sharing. I'd like to ask a quick question, and maybe you can answer it just in the chats. There's so much that needs to be addressed. How do you select your projects?
I'm actually really glad that you asked this question because it's very top of mind. So I'm going to answer it as concisely as possible because I know we're at time, which is that we can never possibly do everything the world
Right.
needs us to do, ever. And there's a lot of surrender and acceptance inside of just doing what we can. And each project that I'm engaged in, and when I say we, it's a small group of 4 of us, each project we have been asked or invited to engage in, and in a few instances even I would say called up into very directly. And so everything that we've engaged in, and I think this is actually a really important point, has come from a direct ask, a direct invitation, and not from us approaching and assuming. And so everything has been highly relational, with permission and with the extension of this is the role that we see for you. Are you willing? So willingness, ultimately, which is important in this kind of work. And, part of what I think is also really kind of awesome about this is that, like, it's just about doing what you can do really beautifully and really well. And there's so many, like, I was reminded recently about this beautiful quote that has in the center of it islands of coherence, and that when a system is out of sync, out of alignment, and fragmented, that it's the islands of coherence that can bring the whole system back in alignment. And an island is a teeny tiny little thing, and bless it up. So thank you for that question.
That is so beautiful, Amy. Thank you. That's something to definitely keep in mind when there's a feeling of overwhelm and despair or whatever it is that we can be those islands of coherence. Every act that we do. Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you, everyone who is here with us right now live, and those of you who are with us in the future. Thank you. Thank you. And any last words, Amy, or are you good?
Yeah, just thank you. Thank you. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions or want to talk more. I'm like totally here for it, and appreciate your passion in meeting in this space of connection and care.
Good night.
Goodbye, everyone. Thank you for being here. Stop recording. Stop recording. Okay.
All right.